Aloha all, this is Samana. This is my 31st podcast, and it's exciting today because I have a guest with me. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit. So, this is pre Valentine's Day. So, I want to talk a little bit about love, challenges, hopes, and dreams, since the relationship podcasts seem to be the highest streamed. Okay, so Valentine's Day is around the corner. I am curious how you feel about this. Is this holiday all about commercial love, or can we look at it as a great excuse to celebrate connection? I prefer the second one. Be it with your partner, your significant other, your best friends, family members, or pets, love is a worthy topic to discuss and share. I want to share a few points to alleviate suffering regarding this holiday coming up. So I have to tell you, for years on Maui, I would have so many female clients coming to me wanting sessions because they were dreading February 14th coming up and they weren't in a relationship. And it was unbelievable how much fear and self-worth issues and so much went on with these poor women. And I would find this with men too. So I often in Maui, one of the best Valentine's Day I ever had, I wasn't in a relationship at that point. I think I mentioned this on a different podcast, but it was one of my favorite parties. So I decided, because so many people, I invited my clients, my friends, everyone. And I said, everybody dress up and bring either an appetizer or a dessert. And I had champagne and wine, and I had flowers, roses for all the women. And I told the men they had to wear black dress pants and a nice shirt, because that's my thing. I think men should be dressed up and wear real shoes. In Maui, that's unheard of. They wear shorts and slippers. So yes, it was my party, my rules. And I told all of the women to bring a female friend that also is single, because there was too many of them stressing out. And then the other thing I did, not only having good wine, good atmosphere, we had food, connection, all that, is I found these rabbit vibrators on sale online, and I ordered a dozen of them. And a few of my friends already knew about that, but it became like the highlight where people were wondering, when am I bringing this out? So I said, okay, let's go in my room, and I empty out the UPS box, and the women that brought friends that didn't know me had this shocked look on their face that I wish I had a camera right there, because it was so funny to me that they were trying to play this off. They had no idea what was really happening in those moments. And anyways, but the point is that couples, a few couples came to that also, or single people or whatever. It's like, don't let this holiday reflect you're alone, you're any of that stuff. Like, do what you want and what you love, and make certain that you just like make it happen. Don't let it be, poor you're not in a relationship. Find someone to share this with. And if you are in a partnership, the other thing that I want to bring up is, this is primarily from men, is they say that they get very uptight around this holiday because women have such high expectations about it, because it's the love holiday, it should be highly romantic, etc. And they're wondering, is it going to be good enough? Do I outdo myself from last year? How much do I have to spend? It goes on and on and on. And just like, speak up to your partner if you're in a relationship. Say what you would like or want, or something fun you can do together, be it if it's a coffee date or making a meal together or watching a movie you both like, playing cards or a game. And I found a fun little thing to do with someone you're interested in is, if you play cards or games, that you both come up with your ideal romantic sex day. And whoever wins the card game or the game, they get to have their day. And the other one has to accommodate. So the bottom line there is everybody wins. So be creative and try new things together. And personally, I have never in all my years liked going out on Valentine's Day to a nice restaurant because they will always rush you through. They try to turn those tables in about 40 minutes, which is unheard of. And it's overpriced, and it's usually set menus, and the service is bad, and the food is mediocre. So if that's what you want to do, do it at a different time during the week. Anyways, that's all I have for now. So now I'm going to talk about my guest, Marta. Now, first I need to tell you, this is how this started. Last week, she listened to my podcast, and she texted me and said, if I wanted to, I can share her experiences that have happened because it may give other women hope. I found that very noble and beautiful, and I said, how about instead of me sharing what happened to you, you come and be my second guest ever on my podcast. So I'm here to welcome Marta.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for coming here after work.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes.
It is a pleasure.
Okay, so now first tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever is relevant to share on any level.
Okay. Well, my name is Marta. I'm from here in Austin, born and raised. I'm in my early 30s. I love to hike. I have a wonderful cat named Kramer, and he's just the best thing ever. For the sake of this podcast, I should mention I'm in a relationship. We're very happy, and I think I owe a lot of that to Samana because she has taught me a lot about how to communicate and how to have skills to be in a successful relationship from her relationship workshop.
You're wonderful. She is one of my biggest fans. Okay, so now, let's see, so what were we saying? Okay, so how you initially met me, or what brought you to me. We're going a little backwards because you actually did so David Garrison and I teach this Be a Relationship Architect workshop. It's a 2-day intensive, and our next one is going to be in March on Saturday and Sunday, March 21st and 22nd from 10 to 5 with a lunch included, so that will be exciting. So enough of that one. And you could learn more about that on my website. So what was happening in your life that you even thought to?
I was going through a pretty soul-crushing breakup at the time. I had been with my partner a little over a year, and we had broken up, and I felt very blindsided. I was really heartbroken, and I was looking for pretty much answers anywhere I could go, looking for something to fill the void that he left. And I found Samana's workshop on the Meetup app, and I just thought, what the hell, I'm going to give this a try. I kind of got really tired after a couple months of just playing the victim and being the sad girl, and I wanted to find some answers and pick up some kind of lesson from this experience and move forward. So I gave it a shot.
That's wonderful. So do you remember that you first interviewed me? We met at the coffee shop before you decided on that. And I was very impressed with that. I'm like, I get it. $300 is a lot. I need to meet this woman and see what it's all about.
Because I knew that in my desperate state, it'd be easy for someone to take advantage. And I met you, and you're very legit, and you were very wise, and we met at Radio Coffee.
I love that place.
And immediately felt a great vibe, and I just immediately knew that I wanted to try this out.
I loved it. And on the way home, I texted David. I'm like, you should meet this Marta. Like, she's exactly why we created the workshop. So I just saw how open.
I was so sad
and ready.
I was
you
so
were
sad
ready.
and vulnerable.
You needed guidance, and I was so happy to meet you.
I did.
Okay, so now, what was our next one? We were asking, so seeking help. So you said you were doing some things before you decided on the workshop.
Right. So I tried some more conventional strategies. I actually had 2 therapists shortly after we had broken up, and they were nice and everything, but they were kind of just validating my feelings and telling me like, oh, it's totally normal that you feel that way, and I can understand why you feel that way. They weren't really giving me homework. They weren't really giving me any kind of strategies to move on. They were just kind of saying what you're feeling is normal. And so that didn't really help. I tried talking to my friends constantly about how sad I was, and I started feeling like I was becoming a bit of a nuisance. And so I wanted to try something new and different and put myself out there.
That's beautiful. Wonderful. Well, that shows a lot about the type of woman that you are. So I love that. Okay, so were you aware of like specific tools that you were looking for to help you, or you just knew you wanted direction? You knew you needed out of wherever you were.
I just needed direction. I just needed a silver lining. I just needed some kind of closure in order to allow me to move on, because I just kept kind of self-sabotaging a little bit, like playing out everything in my head in a loop, like what I did wrong over and over again without getting any kinds of answers. And I just wanted some kind of direction.
Okay, perfect. So now let's pretend we time traveled and we're in our workshop that weekend, that Saturday
Let's do it.
and Sunday with the other participants. And what did you find? Like, what was the first initial, like, lightning bolt that happened during that workshop? What started happening to you, or what were some of the insights you were getting from the workshop?
At first, I felt a little closed off because I was in a room with a bunch of strangers I didn't know, just, trying to be as vulnerable as I could. But I immediately got pretty comfortable. The first thing that really struck me, Samana had this blackboard and we were all taking notes, kind of reminded me of back when I was in college. It was awesome. But she was writing down a bunch of red flags that we need to look out for in relationships that are pretty common. And I looked at all the red flags and I thought, wow, like 4 of those are me. Like I'm the one with the red flags. And I was comparing it all to my ex, and he didn't have any of them. And so I kind of started realizing, like, maybe I need to take ownership in this, and maybe this was more about me, and I need to stop playing the victim. And that was huge for me because it gave me something to move on from.
Yes, movement, just movement,
Right.
period. That
Right.
was so big. That was
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. Good for you. I'm so happy. Okay, so now, and were there anything else like that was like riveting in the workshop, or do we just want to go
Well,
in?
there was a one thing that particularly stuck out, and I spoke to my girlfriends about this too, and they said that this is prevalent in their relationships. Just communication stress skills. We learned that when we're in really stressful situations, we tend to act out in a certain way that is not productive. And I learned that I tend to lash out because I fear rejection and I want the other person to just pull me in and hug me, and I think that if I lash out, then they will. And my ex-partner at the time, he has the communication strategy of just shutting down. So I would lash out, he would shut down, which would make me lash out more, which would make him shut down more, and it was just this horrible loop of bad communication. And I've learned through, maybe it's just my friends, that this is really common between men and women. And
Patterns of dysfunctional
yes,
communication.
yes, exactly. And I looked at that one thing and I said, that's why it didn't work out. And I was able to actually pinpoint it, which gave me a lot of closure.
That's beautiful. So, and is it something, if you feel that behavior coming up in you at this point, is it something like, what would be something you could find yourself doing instead of getting aggressive?
Instead of getting aggressive. So I tend to let my emotions dictate how I act. And
which
so,
is the human way.
Right. And so, which leads to the lash out.
Yes.
So now I take a step back and I try to analyze, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Why am I feeling this? And there's usually some kind of root reason as to why I'm feeling that way that really has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And I want to take it out on him because he's the person closest to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys can notice, but I'm talking about him in the present tense.
Yeah.
So we actually got back together. We got back together about a month after the workshop. I didn't go to the workshop as a way to get him back. I got it as a way to find closure within myself. And I think that I don't know, I fixed myself so much and he could see it.
Wait, fixed yourself.
Well,
you gained so much
That's
awareness
not the right way
of
of
your
saying
behaviors
it. Yeah, you're right.
and understanding and compassion of your
Right.
behaviors
Right.
and really seeing that.
Right.
And then you said you made a call one time and
Yeah, I reached out to him back in December because I had a loved one in my life pass away, and I started feeling all sorts of guilt that I should have been kinder, I should have been sweeter, I should have done this, I should have done that. And so I had reached out to him and genuinely told him, I'm sorry about all the times I was a huge pain in the ass. I didn't mean it. You didn't deserve that. And it kind of just opened the doors for us to get back together. And now...
And he probably felt safe because here you're like copping to your shadows and your stuff and
Right.
okay, I could work with that.
Right.
Because I find for myself personally in relationship also, I can tolerate any human frailness, any like weakness, shadows, whatever, patterns, if someone's aware of it and articulates it and is saying, okay, I'm trying to work on it. Not someone who says, okay, I know this is how I am and continues to do that, because that doesn't work. But when you feel
Right.
that sincerity that they're like, it's like we're all human. We all have things that we're working on. But with that, you know, your heart just opens to them because I feel safe with that.
Right.
That gives me something there. So
Yeah, and we're all flawed, which is, it's really important to understand that we all are.
well, flawed. Yeah, we all have wounds, and we're all figuring out how to heal those wounds and stuff. Okay, so I wanna challenge you as your teacher for a moment. So I know that you're back together and things are great, and in the beginning it's that honeymoon stage again, even though it's your second round, and can you, so I see who you are, you know, I relate to you a lot, where you said, okay, the way I would do that if I'm finding that I'm getting aggressive, I'd step back and I'd go contemplate and see like what is missing and what I could work on myself. And I love that because that's taking ownership, yet let's say in partnership, could you ever imagine a time of saying, you know, hun, I'm just feeling, I don't know, I'm feeling insecure, or I'm feeling needy, or can you like hold me, or can we just sit and look at each other, or
Absolutely.
can you tell me anything wonderful about myself? Like, can we just have a day of gently massaging each other and saying all the things we love about each other? Anything, like any of those things.
Yes, I think that one of the other things I took from your workshop is just like the positive reinforcement with your partner.
Yes.
Just every now and then, not even every now and then, but often just saying, you know, you did this today and I want you to know it didn't go unnoticed and I really, really appreciated it. You made me feel loved and happy. And just as simple as saying something like that to the other person can
Or
make
a
a
quick
world
text
of difference.
when you
Exactly.
said that.
Yeah.
And they love that. We are in a world of text where that's acceptable, and like to just get that back and say, wow, in the
Yeah.
middle of my work day, isn't that wonderful? I'm being
Yeah.
seen. We all want to be
Men
seen.
love that kind of stuff too.
They do.
They really do.
They do. I'm so happy about that. This is so wonderful. Okay.
And something, this is a little off topic, but you were saying just, can you tell me the things you love about me to make me feel better? This last year for my birthday in December, I actually told my friends, my closest friends and my brothers that I didn't want anything for my birthday, that I wanted them to write me a letter just telling me that I'm lovable and all the things about me that they love that I could just, you know, resort to when I'm feeling down or unlovable. And I got a few letters that I just like completely cherish.
Oh, that's so,
And so
beautiful.
I
I'm
think-
glad you asked that.
Yeah, I think that's something really great you can ask from people who love you.
And wouldn't this be a wonderful thing with Valentine's Day? What
Right.
if you two wrote a letter to each other, or designed a card for each other, and get your crayons and your crafts and whatever you're doing, and just write all that and then give each other that letter
Right.
of
You don't have to
appreciation.
spend a lot of money. Make a homemade card with a homemade, well, obviously a homemade letter.
That's right. And
Yeah.
a great meal together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, that's way better than
Yes.
a restaurant.
Agreed.
I love it. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. What are some other things? So now, so from the point of the workshop, like what started unraveling for you, or what did you notice in your behavior that started changing? Or did you go into an old pattern after the workshop and notice, wait, I'm going to do this differently? Like what happened just after the workshop? I want to know like what.
It kind of like just after the workshop, it was kind of strange. It kind of took days, even weeks for everything to kind of sink in because it was so much information, y'all.
Yeah.
I wasn't exaggerating when I said it was like a college class. There was a blackboard, there was notes, there was, packets of
Exercises.
taking notes. Yeah, exercises. And so I kind of let it all sink in, and there's just so much that I took from it. Just loving yourself was the biggest thing that I took from it, really.
Yeah.
Understanding that we're human and we all have our things, and it's not abnormal to feel alone or hopeless. And there are tools and there is hope. And I took a lot of that from the workshop.
That's beautiful. So now, so for those listeners, anyone interested in this workshop, when we do it, we're going to do it a couple times a year. We are going to do it in Maui, hopefully the end of June, but we'll see. Anyways, so the whole thing is we have a contract. So it's a relationship architect contract that throughout the weekend we have different interactive exercises where you're going to do one-on-one processing, some big things, learning communication tools. And again, even if couples do this, we'll let you do some of these exercises together. But when it gets to be big stuff, we're going to partner you with someone else, because it's like learning these skills of communicating where it's someone that's not so threatening or not so scary to talk to, and just doing that. And it's interesting if it's two people you've never met partnered up and you're finding, wait a minute, I'm actually bonding with this person, like I'm crying and this is affecting me, and it becomes beautiful. You do get friends, a strong bond and friendship from there. But you have this contract which we like stop and say, okay, you have 10 minutes to fill that out after this lecture or after this process, or let's take a break or eat something, and then you have this contract. So did you find yourself ever going back to that contract, or do you do anything with that?
Yes, I have it in front of me right now, and it's, as you can tell by the pages, it's pretty weathered because I've gone through it a few times. Yes.
Now I'm curious if you've added to it after the workshop.
I have not added to it, but I've written a lot in my journal since then, but not to these actual pages.
Okay, good.
And I am still in contact with everybody from the workshop still.
Okay,
I made
that's
some great
beautiful.
bonds.
That's beautiful. Yes, other people.
And I've gone through this contract with Alex. Oh, that's my boy. His name's Alex. We've read through this together.
Now, did he answer how he would answer it? Did you ask him the questions and see how he answered it, or you just went over your answers? I'm curious of that.
That's a great idea. We have not, but
See, because you could write this up and you could ask him, would he be comfortable filling that in, and then discussing his answers so that you could get more insight into him.
That's a good idea.
Right? Because that's pretty vulnerable sharing this.
It is.
And we do go through that in the workshop where at what point, so we actually have what we call a bullet point qualifier. So it's like this little hit list of bullet points, which I say keep it in your purse, in your wallet, whatever, when you're first dating, to see, okay, are they on this checklist, or at what point do you say I'm out because I'm wasting time? And that's a commitment to yourself. And then you have your actual core contract that you put so much time into. And at what point do you share this with someone? I mean, they were reviewing and deepening an already existing relationship that was coming together and being renewed, which is wonderful. So for them, it was appropriate to share that, but it would be wonderful to see him fill that out. I would love that.
It would.
And we do offer a thing ever in the future, down the way. If you ever, once you take our workshop, you could come and review if there's spaces, and we give it discounted. It's like half off or something. So yeah, so that's something to do. Okay, so we were still talking about, okay, so what tools do you use regularly in your relationship?
One of the best tools that I learned was the check-ins. So let's say you're out to dinner or something with your partner and they say something that mildly annoys you or kind of pisses you off a little bit, but you don't want to ruin the whole mood and it's not that big of a deal. You don't want to, ruin the night. So you kind of put it aside. And then something else happens, but same situation, you don't really want to bring it up. So the weekly check-ins is where you can sit with each other and you can say, okay, is there anything that happened this week that you want to talk about, something that you want to discuss? And you can, in a non-threatening way, kind of bring up things that maybe bothered you, right? Or do you also bring up things that were good too?
You always got to give that balance to it.
Right.
So it would be,
Positives and negatives.
is there anything that I did or said this week that didn't land right with you?
Right.
That could be a way of asking it.
Right.
And then you would say, well, when we went out to dinner and that happened.
Right, because when the relationship crashed and burned before, the main reason was we weren't communicating. And there was a lot of things that just got bottled up that didn't get communicated until we were just fed up. And so I think the check-ins are very, very important with keeping things real.
And this is what I'll tell you. So counseling 20-some years with couples and with singles, with, broken hearts. And what happens is without checking in. And when you don't, so here's the issue. You're in a relationship, everything is going okay. Let's say it's going great, then it's going okay, and then, we're in our habits and we live together and this works either way. So it kind of has that digression. And you don't want to bring things up because then it will break. And you're afraid to speak your truth, where if you have regular times that you are checking in, where this is going to be addressed instead of when can I bring this up because I don't want a downer, I don't want us to have a horrible weekend. I've gone all week without seeing him. And to find a regular place that your being knows you're going to be heard and he can be heard and not to be defensive. Because I've said on so many podcasts, when you're communicating, the first thing you do is you ask the other person, whoever the conflict's with, is can we set up a time in the near future that will work for you? And this is what I want to discuss, like give them an idea of the topic so that they're not blindsided and so that their insecurities don't come up. And they need to come up with a time within like the next day or two, not like in 2 weeks or keep avoiding that answer. So when you come up with a scheduled time, and you already know the topic, then you're both prepared and ready. And then you say, okay. And again, I tell people, get your phone out, put that timer on for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and let one person share first, and then the other person will give feedback, and then you do that both ways, and it makes, oh my God, does it make a difference?
And I don't know if it's just me, but just the idea of sitting face to face with someone and talking about something that upset you, it's kind of unnatural. It kind of, I still feel uncomfortable doing it. And so it's something, do you have any advice for your listeners on how to feel maybe more comfortable with that kind of confrontation with their partner?
Wait, is that confrontation?
I mean, it's not bad confrontation, but it's still sitting face to face talking about something
that's so raw that they could leave you, that they won't accept you or love you.
It's vulnerability.
And that might be it. Yes, I know. All I could say is vulnerability is like a muscle.
Yeah, it's awkward, and life is just lots of awkward stuff. So you gotta just embrace it.
Oh my God, do I love that vulnerable feeling. I love it. Like I want to go in areas that I've not been before, that I'm raw, that I don't know, like a child learning to walk. I swear to God, I live for that because I know I'm about to grow. And it's not necessarily, again, our mind and our fears and our past patternings and our stuff with our parents in childhood. We're like, I know it's always that fear of abandonment, that fear of not being loved, the fear of being rejected. All those fears come up. But again, it's because of that that we don't talk. And then
Right.
all I would say to myself along this journey is, and I'm alone. Right? Like my behavior has left me alone. Why don't I try it this way? Because if you don't feel that raw, that vulnerability and try, it's like, how are you going to see if that person is really worthy? Do you really want to waste that much time on someone that can't say, okay, I hear that you're having a hard time and I'm sorry I wasn't there when it happened. I'm sorry that we spent 3 days before we talked about it. I never
Right.
want you to feel uncomfortable. You're adorable. I love you. And
then you feel so much more connected afterwards.
so much more connected.
Right.
And it's always that, like, are we going to break up from this? It's like walking on eggs, you know, it's that fragility. And then it's like, and then they embrace you, or they just put their arms around you, or you put your arms around them, or you authentically cry, or something beautiful happens. It's better than a Hallmark movie. I
Right.
love that.
Yes. I completely agree.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm so happy. Okay, so any advice for those looking for love out there, Marta, the expert?
Oh, I am not the expert.
Okay, but where you're at now, this is a level, like, this is, I've worked with many people that have actually been married and divorced and gotten remarried, and this is one thing I say to couples, is unfortunately by the time they come to me, it's what we were just talking about before, they've gone so long without discussing anything that they're just fed up and it's just too painful and I'd rather just bail. And I would say to them that if you can work this out at this level, instead of repeating history and knownness and things that are familiar and that did work, that why not learn new tools for this? It could be a deeper love and way more.
I think that just communication is huge, and that's something that you hear all the time, but it really, it didn't hit me how important it was until I lost, maybe the love of my life because of the lack of it. And now I learned the lesson the hard way, and I won't ever forget it.
And you were sharing that you felt you were blindsided and he left just suddenly. But what was really happening is you never opened
We
up to
weren't
him.
communicating. I was communicating poorly by lashing out and by being overly aggressive because I was so frustrated that he wasn't communicating at all. And he wasn't communicating at all because he was so frustrated because I was lashing out. So it was just a vicious cycle that we just needed to understand and address, but we didn't know how.
And then you did that call without manipulating, without thinking I'm doing this to get him back, and you just said, I want to make amends. I want to tell you what a great man you are and how much I appreciated you, and I'm sorry I wasn't
Right.
healthy enough to see it at the time, and I totally own my shit.
Exactly. And that I did.
And love happens. That's
Yes.
the Hallmark card.
Yes.
I'm so happy. Okay.
Me too.
So when we're feeling hopeless, what are some of the things we can do? We know it's 30 minutes. Okay.
Yes. Reach out for help.
Yeah.
Seek friends, seek family.
And
That's a
when
good
you're,
question.
I just want to say, when you're in a relationship, because this is another common thing, because I've seen this with friends, female friends of mine, and even male friends of mine, when they're having issues with their partner, that they call you as a friend or you as a family member. And my first question to them is, have you shared this with your partner? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, but this is your issue with your partner. Like, just notice how many times we've done that. And so, yeah, that's just something I'm saying, is learn to find ways to talk. And if that person isn't there for you to listen, when you're not being aggressive, when you're not being on the defense, when you're actually open-hearted with an open heart, an open mind, and if they're not able to listen to you or, just see you in that moment, then it is best to move on. It is best to know that, okay, breaks my heart, but I'm not going to waste time because this is really what I want.
Right. I think I did that a lot in my 20s where I would try to just come off as the cool girl, the girl where nothing really bothered me and I was super chill about everything going on when really deep down I was annoyed and I did feel hurt and I did feel rejected, but I didn't want to make a big deal about it because then it's going to scare them off. And then I ended up wasting so much time on someone who really wasn't that interested just because I was projecting onto them.
Yeah.
And I made that mistake for like a whole decade.
Yeah. It might be the 20s mistake, though. I did that
Yeah.
in my 20s.
I think a lot of young women do that.
Because we have enough power, but not enough insight, right?
Right.
So it's like, I'm pissed off. I know what I want, but I don't know how to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that same thing. I'm like, screw you. You're not giving me attention. I'm going off to the bar.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. How about, because I'm feeling I'm not getting the attention, I just sit on his lap and say, hun, I want it all about me. Can this be all about me right now? Because I would see that they would just love that. They would smile. I'd sit on their newspaper.
And if they don't love that, then they don't love you.
That's
and move
right.
on to somebody who does.
That's right. Because you're going to find that. I think success equals the amount of your intention and your motivation behind something mixed with the energy and passion for it. So if you have the motivation and intention to have a healthy partnership, and you actually have the energy to do the work on yourself and to do the work and have compassion for the other person, then that's the way to have a healthy relationship. And I bring my little spirituality in here because the Buddha says the quality of life is living in balance and moderation. So it really is asking ourselves at some point, regardless if we're single and heartbroken or if we're in a relationship that may or may not be working, to ask like, on what level, if we look at it as a scale, and like where are we rigid in our thoughts about ourselves or our partner? And where are we not formed? Like, where do we really not move into our responsibility or accountability? And notice how can we make that where there's enough flexibility for growth, for the allowance of another person, where it doesn't feel like it's his way or my way, where it feels like, wait a minute, let's like make a whole new way between the two of us. And where we both succeed, where it's both out of our comfort zone, but it's a new experience together. And I think that's ideally what we're all looking for. So I do want to end with a thanking Marta for all of her authentic sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It was wonderful.
And thank you for listening, everybody.
I love it. And I love having guests. So I want other guests out there. So a little pitch here. So we have our relationship workshop. I said that's March 21st and 22nd. And I do have rooms on booking.com if you're not living in Austin and you need to come here, as long as they're available, since that's just after South by Southwest. We might have some openings. And the other workshop I do, where I talk about the doing the cleanse on the physical, mental, and spiritual, emotional bodies, we're calling that the 30-day total transformation self-empowerment course. And I'm changing the dates on that. I'm having a little moment getting into 2020 here where I just need a little more time. So we're going to do that. They say the best time to do a cleanse for the body is in the fall and the spring. So March 26th is a Thursday evening, and we're going to start that. It's going to be 4 Thursdays, March 26th, April 2nd, 9th, and 16th from 7 to 9. I will provide a healthy alkaline soup. We're going to do meditations and journaling and exercises and a lot of contemplation, and I'm holding you accountable. It's going to be 30 days of being held accountable for where we need to go deeper in our own. Again, the more we love ourselves, the more we can love another person. So you could contact me at 808-283-7587 or Spaluna, SPALUNA.com is my website. And I love your time and your attention, and aloha.
Aloha.